Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Tim Ringel, welcome to the conversation today.
Hi, John. Nice to be here. Thank you.
It's great to be with you. You're joining us from New York. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about improving employee experience. I think we've all been there. We've all been in organizations where the experience has been less than desirable. In fact, we may have even been in toxic climates, toxic cultures with toxic leaders. That's not a pleasant thing to have to deal with. It's not a great place to be. But there are many ways that organizations and how leaders can really dramatically improve employee experience, often with pretty simple low cost or no cost approaches and strategies. It's not rocket science, but it is hard because it takes consistency and it takes intentionality. Those are things sometimes that get lost in the fray of just the daily grind of trying to, produce your product or service and provide it out into the market. But it's through our people that we're able to accomplish those things. It's through our people that we're able to innovate and create great stuff to provide to the market. And so having that positive employee experience is really, really important. As we get started, I wanted to share Tim's bio with everybody. A company builder at heart, Tim is a serial entrepreneur and startup investor with a portfolio of over 50 companies, mainly in the digital technology space in Europe, the US, and Asia. His pre-IPO investment track record counts well-known names like Airbnb, Cobi, Kreditech, Mambu, Meet the People, on and on. My goodness, SpaceX, so many wonderful IPOs that you've been a part of in your portfolio. Tim is a frequent speaker at industry events around the globe and is an active supporter of entrepreneurial associations. Tim, great again to be with you. Anything you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
I would say the other half of my career, if you want to, kind of coin it that way, or my experience, how I like to say, is being an investor in startups, as you mentioned. And some became household names, and many of them failed. But lots of them also became household names like Spotify, Airbnb, that kind of everybody uses today, right? So I have seen a lot building companies from the inside out, from 2 people to, at the largest scale, 3,000 people. And I've seen a lot observing companies that invested into, who started very small and ended up being probably changers in the world and how we as consumers purchase products or operate with products or even industries. So I try to apply both experiences to what I build, because every company I have built, I've tried to improve not only the company itself, but also the people experience. And I think in the current company that I'm building, it's actually in the name. It's called Meet the People, because in our industry, in the advertising industry, and you might know this or not, or the audience knows this or not, it's probably one of the most exposed industry when it comes to tech hypes. Everything needs to be automized. Everything can be technologized. But in the end, an iconic logo that we know today, like the logo of Coca-Cola or Pepsi or many other brands, have not been created by a computer, has been created by humans who are highly creative. So I'm trying to remind our industry that technology is amazing and AI is amazing and machine learning is amazing and Google and Amazon. We use all of these platforms and all these technologies now every day. But in the end, we're still talking to humans behind the work, humans in front of the screen, and humans out on the street. So in the end, that's why I call the company Meet the People. So today we are 800 of us already after 2 years and 10 months. And we have big growth ambitions. I want to disrupt the industry we are in, the advertising industry, yet again. But disrupt it a little bit differently now. Disrupt it with a people-first culture, disrupted with a client and solution first culture instead of tactics, tech, and all the many shiny object that we kind of like fall into thanks to the big tech platforms.
Yeah, well, I think that's great. And it's really interesting, as we were prepping for this interview, and I was looking over your bio and all of your experience and all the tech background. I really appreciate your approach because it's very often that I'm having conversations with people in the tech industry where this whole idea of employee experience is almost completely lost on them. They're just like, no, we're focused on innovative
Building cool tech.
technologies.
Right.
We're focused on the cool tech, and people will come for the cool tech, or they won't. That's fine. And really, there's just no emphasis on improving employee experience, having that positive experience, almost a diminishing of even the value of people in
Mm-hmm.
the process. Everything you just described really upends that kind of framework that I think is super common in the tech industry. And I suppose there's a tension there, and which means there needs to be a balance, right? Like, of course, we're utilizing the tech, we're leveraging AI, we're learning how to automate all of those things, but we do it with a mind towards the people that are still involved in our organizations. We're not displacing everybody. It's not like robots and AI are taking over all the jobs. Like, we still need human beings to do a lot of the work and to prompt engineer and do all that kind of stuff. Like, we need good, smart, capable people. And if we don't have an environment where people want to be, where they feel supported, where they feel like they have, the opportunity to exercise their creative juices, and they just
Mm-hmm.
become, like controllers of robots, then I think we're gonna miss the boat. We're gonna miss out on a lot of the innately human potential of uh, and contributions that come from the people within our organizations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want to get too philosophical about it, but in reality, we have to remind ourselves that we are not producing products or technology just for the purpose of feeling good about it, that we produce
Mm,
something. That for a lot of people, inventors and engineers, that's often the motivation. I want to invent something that nobody has invented before. But in the
yeah.
end, if nobody uses it, it's worth nothing. So
Mm,
the human is still the application in terms of we're building something to make life better, easier. I don't know, like, allow us to have more time for family. That should be the reason why companies build stuff. So probably if you would have asked me, I'm now 48 years old. If you would have asked me when I was 21, probably would have talked about something totally different, right? Because with
yeah.
decades comes wisdom or a different view on what matters in life. And as I said, this is my fifth company. So I realized that over the last couple of companies, no matter what product you're building, no matter what service you're building, if you create a positive work environment, and this is not a short-term game, like this is not like, oh, this quarter we're going to be cool, so the next quarter we're going to
Right.
make profits, right? But if you consistently invest into your people, and I don't mean only monetarily invest, that's one part of the equation, but in the end, it's a quadrant, right? There's so many motivators why people follow leaders, why people sign up for work, why people come to work, why people want to build a product, why they believe in the mission. And I always say the worst employee, probably a useful one, but the worst employee is an employee who's only there for the money. If there's no
Hmm.
motivation towards vision, leadership, brand, and an affinity towards those, that person is probably going to jump ship, no matter how great the work environment is going to be. So I think the best employee is a balanced employee who gets similarly motivated by money as that person does by being there with the people they work with. And you can only create that loyal environment if you are trying to be loyal to your people and if you're creating a work environment where they feel elevated, supported, have a career path. I'm not saying we do all of this right. I think nobody really does.
Yeah.
But we've made it our mission to like improve every day a little bit and make that a real priority because in the end, what I'm building here is a people's business, right? So we have, as I said, 800 people in our family here in our sports team. And that's a lot of people to be responsible for. And it's a lot of people that create the basis to become 1,500 people or 2,000 people, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's often an overlooked part of building business. Why? Because once you're really big, and we are not really big yet, but once you're really big, the financial goals usually tend to overarch what the goal of the company and the mission of the company was, right? And that's where many stock market listed companies fall into. And I've seen this with companies I invested into pre-IPO, where the culture just changed dramatically because all of a sudden the CEO can't just be good to his people or their people because, oh, I have a 10-year plan here, right? And we execute against it. No, this is quarterly results, pressure from analysts, shareholders, stakeholders, the board. So it makes the listing of companies makes companies think extremely short term. And this is what we then call like the corporate death trap, right? Where you're like in the
Yeah.
job because you get paid well, you're not happy, but you're staying because you have a mortgage, you have credit card debt, you have an auto, right? Like you kind of get trapped in that. And I think if I'm building a company, I can only speak for myself. We need to create an environment where people, like are happy to work and they're gonna produce better product, better outcomes, long-term relationships with clients, and ultimately more profit for the company.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. There's so much research
Mm-hmm.
on this
Mm-hmm.
about those positive bottom line outcomes for organizations that focus on
Right.
people. So set aside the human case, like just valuing people as innate,
Mm-hmm.
individuals who deserve our value, but set that aside and just say what makes the company more profitable, what produces
Yeah.
better products and services. It's when you focus on people that will happen. But you're right, it's a long-term game. It's not short-term. There's all sorts of things you can do in the short term this quarter to make your earnings reports look better, to
Yep.
reduce labor costs. All of that then though has long-term implications that then you're going to have to unwind and work back from later. And so that's the game and that's the tension. Like it's really hard. It's frustrating. I feel for corporate leaders who find themselves in that trap on the
Mm-hmm.
one hand. On the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, we can do better. Like we know better and
Yeah, exactly.
we're playing into the system.
Exactly. And I see this when we talk to our clients. So we work for very large brands and we work for mid-sized brands, all kinds of large tech companies, IBM, Google, LVMH, LG, L'Oreal. These are all clients of us. And we try to remind them why they're doing things. And it comes back to, again, the people. Like, you're not creating a new lipstick just for profit. You're creating a new product because you think it's going to help. That should be the intention. You think it's going to help people to live a better life, right? And lots of them have
Mhm.
that in their slogan. Nike
Yep.
has just do it, right? LG has live better. And like, it's part of the brand narrative. So let's live that as well in the way how we communicate to consumers, not only internally to our employees, but also how are we taking consumers for a ride? Or are we not taking them for a ride? And the beauty in my industry is that social media, despite the fact that there's a lot of, how do you say, anger on social, right? Because people can anonymously kind of bash people or things or brands or products, there's
Mhm.
also a lot of truth there. There's a lot of truth there. So we're teaching brands to not be scared of customer reviews and customer feedback, because if you really take it at heart, it's going to make your company better and your product better. So that's
Mhm.
like, we always ask the question, why are you doing things? You're sending us this brief. You want to, I don't know, redo your website, blah, 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 whatever it is, or launch this campaign for this particular product. Why are you doing this? Are you doing it for profit? Are you doing it because you think your product is better? Are you doing it because you want to gain market share? And very often so, channels like social are very good channels to test things, to test messaging, test products, what actually
Mhm.
resonates with people. Because 20, 30 years ago, it would be spaghetti on the wall, right? You like
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
company would invent a product, they would put it in a shelf, either it flies or not, and within a few months it's canceled or not because people didn't grab it. There was no feedback channel. Now you have a 24/7 feedback channel that goes for internal, but it also goes for external, right? So we're shifting, we're trying to teach brands to shift the paradigm when it comes to, there is enough signals out there, how to be a better communicator, how to be true to your brand, how to be authentic with your brand and your products. Listen to the people, use technology to make it better, and then give it back to the people. That's the idea.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So with this tension and with, some people would say it's contradictory, it's incompatible, but how would you say we can better utilize technology more humanely
Yeah.
for that better employee experience?
Yeah, let me make a very simple example. Let's presume, and I'm not talking about a small company where the founder or the leaders know all their employees, because uh, I always say, like, I had probably the best time running a business when we were 50, 60 people. Why? Because I would walk into the office. That was obviously pre-pandemic, long time ago.
Hmm.
You walk into the office and you literally know everybody. You know
Yeah.
the person, you know what they do, you know their partners, you know the name of their children, you know the name of their pets, you care. And that usually creates an extremely great work environment, culturally, as well as from a profitability perspective, because this
Hmm.
is it's beyond a job. It's like a sports team, right? Where everybody knows we work together, we really care about each other. So how can technology help us? The problem with larger organizations is that it's extremely anonymous. It's
Hmm.
hierarchic, and you have no idea who works there. Like, I have 800 people. We have created a platform where everybody in the organization can see everybody in the organization, and that
Hmm.
is technology based. It's like a SaaS platform. You log in, you have all your employee items there, your whatever, like your W-2, your taxes, your payroll, your paycheck, all insurance, all this kind of HR necessary stuff. But you also have a social stream, and can dive deeper and look into every organization of my organization, and can reach out to everybody, no matter
Hmm.
which level, no matter who they are. You see what they work on, you see what their work experience is, you see what they care about. It's all opt in, right? It's all self-identification. People
Hmm.
post things about their children, their pets. They post things about their life, and that in itself creates already a work environment that's way more humane, instead of like, oh, well, I know we have 799 other employees in the organization. I know my boss, and I know my 5 colleagues, but that's it. I don't identify with anyone else. So we're trying to change that, utilizing technology and bringing people together in a virtual world where, a lot of people anyways don't come to office, right? So you have to recreate, and that's one of the missions. We have to recreate the office
Hmm.
experience without being in the office. And nobody has really cracked it, but we're trying our best utilizing technology to get there. And I'm a big believer, and then I'm going to stop blabbering about, but I'm a big believer in chemistry in person, because
Hmm.
um, you walk into a room and you feel something. You feel either this is a good room, is a bad room. There's
Yeah.
positivity, negativity. You know this. Like I always describe it. I come home into my house and I know what's going on. You sense it immediately, right? And then you can steer the conversation and empathize, and have empathy towards the people who might be in trouble, because the worst people in the meeting are the people who are distracted because they're stressed about something. And some companies have this rule, like, we can't do this virtually because it takes too much time. But I really like it when you do an offsite, or when you do a leadership meeting, or you bring a group of people together who are new to each other, that first of all, you let them express what's on their mind, right? This is a tactic to kind of be more efficient. You let them for 15 seconds talk about, is something on your mind that is troubling you so much that you can't focus right now. Do you want to go and solve it first and then come back? That's option number one. Or do you want to share it with us? And it costs like 5 minutes before you start. Do you want to share it with us so we can help you get through it? And then you can focus on the work, right? That's a typical tactic that's out there, where that's really appreciated by employees as well. Yeah, just some examples. Um,
Yeah.
how you can change the whole sentiment of conversations. I,
Hmm.
I, obviously I can't know all the people I work with technically, right? I just can't. I can't meet them all in person. But before I go to a meeting where there's a lot of people I don't know, I go onto our platform and try to understand who they are. So you relate. I think it's important. You know?
No, I completely agree. I think those are great examples that really helps put a fine point on like nobody here is suggesting we put our heads in the sand, pretend like the technologies don't exist, or try to go back to the day, some
It's never going to happen.
big
Yeah.
some fictitious like previous time when everything was utopia. Like that doesn't exist. Like it wasn't utopia back then, and we
Mhm.
can't go back either. Like we have to learn how to use the tools and embrace the tools that we have, but do it in a humane way. Use it in a way to leverage the capacity, the human capacity of the people that we have. So those were
Correct.
great examples that you just provided. Another aspect of this that I think is really important to the employee experience is creating a sense of belonging within your organization. And like you said, that can be extra challenging when you have a lot of remote or hybrid
Mm.
people, where you
Very
don't
difficult
have,
remote.
it's like you said, if I'm in the room with somebody, I may not like that person. I may have an argument with that person. I may be really frustrated or whatever. But it's one thing to connect virtually. It's a different thing to be sitting across the table from that person in person and to have human interactions. And that breaks down a lot of barriers. And
Totally.
so it's possible to have a really dynamic, really healthy organizational culture focused on the employee experience in a remote environment. It's possible, but it's hard. You have to be intentional about it. And you have to build in mechanisms to make sure that those opportunities occur for people to have real, meaningful interactions in some of the ways you
And
just described. Yeah.
and we all know this feeling where you sometimes in your job, but also personally, you sometimes have to have a frank conversation with people, right?
Yeah.
And if you do it on Zoom, you switch off and it still stands there. It kind of hovers. But if you're in person, and this is why I motivate, especially young talent, to come into office a few days a week. Um, you learn when you make mistakes. You learn when you have a frank conversation, but you can
Mhm.
fix it on the way out of the room. You know what I mean? You can still like a simple handshake or a simple pat on the back or like, listen, everything's gonna be okay. Like that goes a really long way. When
Mhm.
you have to have a strong or frank conversation, and that is very difficult virtually. It's also very difficult to help people because everything is pre-scheduled. So you can't just walk over to a desk and say, "Well, are you struggling? Can I help you with something? I have 5 minutes, right?" Like that is gone. So again, you're absolutely right. We're not going to go back to how it was pre-pandemic. So we have to adjust our approach, but we should not forget that technology is not going to solve the fact that we are human beings who are flawed and who need support. And if you're alone at home in your studio apartment 5 days a week and you work remote full time, it's extremely difficult mentally and it's extremely difficult to create any identification with the company or the people you work with and for. So I highly encourage people to try to build those relationships, even if they're over coffee. Um, Also, I think it's a career advantage if people care, right? It's a career
Yeah.
advantage, I think. Well, so yeah, that's some of the things that the belief systems that we're trying to implement. Another system that we recently implemented, and I like to make these examples because they're not rocket science. They're like, they're actually pretty doable. So one is
Yeah.
create a platform where everybody can come together, where people can share their personal and their professional lives. So you start relating because you don't have the moment where you can cheer in office. We want a client, amazing, everybody's hugging. That's not happening anymore, right? So you have to do it virtually, and you can't just schedule a Zoom. Oh, let's do it like cheers for 15 minutes. These times are happened in the pandemic. Nobody wants to do this anymore. So another way how I'm trying to crack it is um, we wanna incentivize people to collaborate
Mm.
because collaboration comes difficult if you're not in the same proximity, especially with us having people in probably 40 out of 50 something states, right?
Mhm.
So we've created this platform where people receive virtual tokens, coins, dollars, um, equally from myself. I received the same like the intern who just started, right? We all receive the same amount of currency every quarter. And you can't spend that currency that you receive from the company. You can only distribute it by giving
Mm.
people kudos or celebrating their birthday, celebrating collaboration, and celebrating their successes. Once you have received it from someone else, you can spend it. So that is extremely interesting. And you can spend it, in our case, on Amazon vouchers, Apple equipment, swag. You can spend it on travel. You can spend it on accommodation, flights, groceries, whatever you want. It's like an extra, look at it as like a little bonus you get every quarter. But you can't spend the bonus the company gives you. You can only transfer it to others. And once they transfer something back, to you. You can spend that. So, and we're doing that, and it's not really about the monetary aspect. It's not a lot of money. It's like $40 a person a quarter or $100 a person a quarter. So it doesn't change materially the monetary aspect of it, but it encourages people to connect, reach out, celebrate each other, share teamwork, and just be good humans. Because there is a benefit to it, and we have seen that a lot of people actually redeem these coins into their daily shopping needs, their Whole Foods, their grocery shopping. Sometimes even when there's holidays coming and you need gifts for your children, people buy toys with these coins. It's really interesting to see, right? So it becomes, again, like I'm not calling a company a family, because that's wrong. You can't get rid of a family member if that family member is a complete.
Right.
Okay, I could
Right.
say bad words, but you know what I mean. Like we all have this uncle or that is just terrible. So a family you can't divorce. You can, but you know what I mean. A sports team works like a family, but people change. Why? Because they just don't make the team, right? So I want to operate a business like a sports team that cares about each other and incentivize each other for doing great and being successful. And I'm hoping these platforms going to help us there.
Yeah, I love it. Those are just great examples, Tim. Tim, it has been a pleasure. I know at the time I need to let you go here in just a minute, but before we wrap things up for today, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Oh, absolutely. So again, companies meet the people. We are hiring. We love people. It's in the name. We're 800 people right now. We're going to be probably 1,200 people in a year's time. So it's an exciting story. You can find me on LinkedIn, Tim Ringel. On LinkedIn is the easiest. I deleted all my social apps besides LinkedIn. I have to out myself on the 31st of December of last year, because I realized it's too much of a time suck and I'm not spending enough time with my people instead, right? So you find me on LinkedIn. You can email me, tim@meetthepeople.com, and you can follow us, the company, on all kinds of social channels to get a little bit of a better idea what we're doing. And in the end, I would say my takeaway is a company can only expect that their employees are good to them if they are good to their people. That goes for companies and employees. That also goes for your customers. If you don't care about your customers not going to care about you. So what are you doing for your customers so they do something for you? And that goes for every human, really, no matter if it's an employee-employer relationship or it's a brand and customer relationship. And I recently said this on stage somewhere, and that was the one quote that people then in the end started twittering, right? So think about why someone should love your brand, and you should love them back for it.
I love it. Tim, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Tim and his team can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.